guys, it's Emily, the little reptile queen. I'm here again with Mike and Raina from Wild Education.
Hey guys.
Hi. Today we're doing a video on lizards. So we're starting with some geckos. So we got a gargoyle, cresty, a leopard gecko, and in my hands I have a leachianus gecko. So we're gonna go through the pros and cons of each lizard, starting with kind of the most popular pets with these little geckos. So kind of the first ones that are most popular are the crested geckos and sometimes gargoyle geckos. They aren't as popular but very similar in care. Mike, tell us about these two geckos you have in our hands.
So that, again, very popular pets. Really the only reason the gargoyles aren't as popular as crested geckos is they don't breed as readily. Whereas crested geckos, you have a male and female together, you're gonna get eggs every like 40 days or so. Whereas these guys here, they're a little more temperamental when it comes to breeding. So, but I mean, they're all great pets. I mean, even the leachianus gecko, like these are all in the same, they're all in the same family of geckos here. They're all New Caledonian geckos. I mean, these guys do get a little bigger, and one huge difference when buying these guys is the price. Crested geckos you can find online for like $60, something like that. Gargoyles are a little more expensive online. Usually find them for around 150, I think. Now I know.
So, yeah.
I saw them in a pet store a couple weeks ago for like 300 bucks.
300, yeah. Sometimes they're expensive.
The leachianus geckos are the priciest of the geckos. The last one I saw for sale was like $1,600.
Yeah, or like $2,000. They're very expensive.
So it's very, I mean, it all depends on how much you want to spend and all that. I wouldn't, you know, get this for a beginner pet. But I mean, in all honesty, like the crested geckos are probably, in my opinion, the best starter pet for lizards, just because of the ease of care.
That was my best friend's first actual reptile.
Yeah, they're very, very popular. We got leopard geckos too. Leopard geckos are great if you have the proper setup. Now, being a rescue, I can honestly say one of the most common animals we get in that is in poor condition are leopard geckos. Most of the time it's because people don't have them in a proper environment. Now leopard geckos don't need a super humid environment, but they do need a humid space. And if they don't have a humid space when it comes time to shedding, the most common thing that happens is if you look at their eyes, it's gonna be hard to see, but their eyelids, the scales on the head go actually all the way kind of up underneath the eyelid there. So if they don't have the proper humidity and the scale can't come off from inside the eyelid, it actually starts causing infections in the eyes. People don't really catch it right away, or if they do catch it, they don't really know how serious it is. And if you leave it too long, you can actually start getting massive abscesses on the eyes to the point where they can actually rupture the eyes. We see it, honestly, usually once a month. We see a gecko that's got the same issue. So husbandry is very important. The crested geckos, I think in all my years of doing this, I've maybe had one crested gecko come in with a medical issue. Other than that, they're great. Yes, Raina?
I have something to say about the leopard gecko.
Yes, tell us about the leopard gecko.
Well, it's something that you need to make sure you do.
Yes.
So, if you get a leopard gecko and you're taking care of it and its tail's like really skinny like that, that is a very unhealthy leopard gecko.
Exactly.
Because this is food. So I can basically like store fat and nutrients in there.
So smart.
Yeah,
They can store fat and nutrients in there, and then they can go off with a couple of days of food because they can
couple
just
months,
eat,
couple
a couple
months. Yeah.
So they can eat off of their tail. Well, not eat their tail.
Yeah, so that's one of the big differences. Like these guys here can go a long time without food because they do have that fat and nutrient storage. Now, the bad thing about that is when their body is constantly feeding off of the tail, if they run out of food for a long time, it is harder on their organs because it is just a lot of fat and stuff they're not supposed to be digesting all the time. So if they're running out of food for a week or two here and there, it's not that big of a deal. I don't recommend not feeding your animals for that long. But it's more of a thing in the wild because they don't always find food in the wild. Raina, tell us about the tails. What happens if the leopard gecko loses its tail?
If the leopard gecko loses its tail, it will grow a new tail back, but sometimes it will grow a split tail. So one tail will be going this way and one tail will be going that way.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like a forked tail. Crested geckos here, they don't grow their tail back. Now, one big difference between a crested gecko and a leopard gecko is the tail. What kind of tail do these guys have?
Prehensile.
Prehensile, which means if you look here, they can actually hang by their tail. Now, I don't recommend doing that too many times because their tail can fall off if you do it too many times. It is a defense mechanism. These guys here, their tail is not prehensile. It will not hang by her hand there. So that being said, these guys here can pretty easily grow their tail back, whereas the crested geckos, if their tail falls off, it's gonna jump, and their tails are gone forever, okay? There we go. Yeah. Geckos.
Perfect. Gecko.
So we're back right now with some bigger lizards. Holy man. So I have a Savannah monitor in my hands right now.
It's very squirmy, as you can see. Wait, never mind.
They're just waiting for it to poop on me.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. I agree, but it's okay. So I used to have a Savannah monitor, and mine was so sweet. It enjoyed cuddles, but
oh, it's dripping. It's dripping.
They're not normally like that.
So the reason this one isn't as friendly as a lot of Savannah monitors you see, we got the Savannah monitor from a guy a few months ago. He didn't really handle it at all ever. This thing here is over 2 years old. When we got it in, it was about a third this size, so it's actually grown almost triple the size in the last few months.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you actually feed them the way they're supposed to be fed. This guy here he's pretty small for his age, so we're working on slowly handling him that. But our first priority, instead of handling him and getting him friendly, was getting some weight onto him and actually making him a little bit bigger. But I mean, once we start having, we're gonna put him on display soon, and then he'll actually become a really calm animal that we can just kind of have out for everyone to see. I love Savannah monitors. You love Savannah monitors.
I love
they're
Savannah
great,
monitors.
so.
But it's unfortunate because these guys, they're always wild caught. So they bring them in from Africa. They sell them at expos for like $80, and they're usually filled with parasites. And a lot of them die even before 2 years of age. I did a lot of research into Savannah monitors because their husbandry is like highly debated. Like how you're truly supposed to keep a Savannah is highly debated.
Oh, don't put him in the poo!
I won't put him in the poo. So it's unfortunate. These ones are not good pets. I would not recommend this pet to anyone because they just do not thrive in captivity, especially with regular people. Here it will be great. It will have lots of space, but most people can't.
Because we're not regular people.
Exactly. You guys are experts. But it just, they do not make good pets. Don't get them. I don't recommend
you open his mouth at you now. They've got a very powerful bite too. If they do bite you, it's a very powerful bite. And that's why it's always nice to handle them and get them nice and calm before they get to like that 3 or 4 foot size.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll calm down. I mean, he will calm down nicely.
He will. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
But with these guys too, they're also prone to fatty liver disease because you're really only supposed to feed them invertebrate prey. So you're not really supposed to feed them like whole prey items like rats and chicken and stuff, just because it doesn't make them really fat. This one needs to gain some weight anyway, so he's good with lots of food. But with mine, we fed him snail meats and we fed him lots of bugs and fish and all that deliciousness, so it was a super fun pet. But don't get it.
Raina, what do you got?
I got a bearded dragon, and this is a massive bearded dragon.
It is. It's one of the biggest ones I've ever
Bearded
seen.
dragons are like, well, this one's like double our other one's size.
Yeah, it's
like,
huge. It's a big girl.
So big. And her name's Coco, by the way.
So bearded dragons, they're also a good pet. When it comes to certain lizards, I would definitely recommend a bearded dragon over a monitor any day. The downside to the bearded dragons is you do need a larger enclosure for them. You gotta have your proper lighting and vitamins and food and supplements, things like that. We get a few bearded dragons in, you know, every few months we get some bearded dragons that have metabolic bone disease. We actually just had one die yesterday that we got in about 2 weeks ago, and it was pretty deformed. So it's, again, any animal can do well if you know how to look after it properly. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't put the time in to do the research in that. I think the biggest downfall of bearded dragons is their appetite. These guys eat a ridiculous amount of food. So when they're younger, their diet's about 80% insects and 20% greens. As they get older, it kind of switches to 20% insects and 80% greens. But even when they're eating that 20% insects, it's a ridiculous amount of bugs. So
it's
yeah,
expensive.
but worms are great. They're not cheap. So especially if you got a lot of these guys going on. Raina, why are they called bearded dragons?
They're called bearded dragons. It's because they have this
Running away.
little flap, if you can see, under their chin right there. And that is because if they're getting scared or nervous, their chin will actually go black. But this is puff up, so she'll puff it up if she's like nervous sometimes, and if she kind of wants to find a mate.
Exactly, yeah. It's just to make herself look bigger and scarier, or bigger and better looking still. And then this one,
Is the coolest one.
This was my first favorite lizard in the whole world. It is called a frilled dragon. Now, a lot of people get these and say, oh, we have an Australian frilled dragon. This is not an Australian frilled dragon. This is a New Guinea frilled dragon, which is the common one we see in the pet trade. The Australian frilled dragons, a little bit bigger frill, a little more dull brown in color. And the price difference is also huge too. So to buy a frilled dragon like this, I don't know what they are, like $350, $400, something like that.
They're like $500, $600.
Yeah, but to get an Australian frilled dragon, they're over $1,000. So this is New Guinea. He was surrendered to us 2 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Little on the thin side. He's doing pretty good. He's got a
We
chubby
love
little
him.
belly now.
We love him.
Yes, Raina absolutely loves this guy.
He runs so funny. He runs on his 2 back legs.
Yeah, so he is bipedal, which means they do run on just their back legs sometimes, which is hilarious to watch. We got some pretty good slow motion videos of them. Now, I think more importantly, what we should talk about is why they're called frilled dragons. So, you gotta get closer to the camera. So, if you guys know the movie Jurassic Park, the first one, there's the Dilophosaurus. It's the one that has the big frill around its neck. So if this one gets scared or nervous, it actually puts that out like that on both sides, and it looks like basically a satellite dish. So they do that, they'll open their mouth, they'll hiss and things like that, all in an attempt to make themselves look bigger and scarier. And if that doesn't work, then they'll turn around and just book it on their back legs to get out of here. And they can run incredibly fast.
And it's so funny to watch.
And it's hilarious to watch. So this guy here, I mean, frill dragons are cool when they frill up. It's cool to see, but this guy doesn't really get scared of anything. He's never seen a salve before. Let's see if he'll...
You guys can look it up at home.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, sometimes if you put another lizard beside him, he'll get a little nervous, but it doesn't happen often. So let's see. He just wants to run. No, he's gonna go. Yeah, so there's some lizards that are not always the best beginner pets, especially this one and this one. Bearded dragons, again, they're decent pets if you know what you're doing, but they're a little bigger than the geckos.
The better size for a bearded dragon is not this girl.
Yeah, they're usually a little smaller than that.
Chunky.
Yeah.
So now we're here with the 3 biggest lizards Mike has at his education center. We have a couple of tegus here and then a very angry monitor. Mike, tell us about these big lizards.
So, the one in my hand is an Argus monitor. Not the friendliest guy in the world. You get nice and close, he'll give us a big hiss maybe. There we go. So what he does, he inflates his throat full of air and then he forces it all through his nostrils to make that hissing noise. So he obviously is not happy at all. We got him in a couple of years ago. He actually used to be a lot worse. He used to chase us in the enclosure, like full out chasing us. He had this thing for shoes. He'd bite shoes. He's actually made me bleed through leather shoes on multiple occasions. He's calming down a lot. I know Raina would disagree with me on that one, but he's calming down a lot to the point where we can hold him and he doesn't try to kill everyone. Now, monitors are not something I ever recommend to anybody. I mean, we saw the Savannah monitor earlier. This guy here is another example of a big lizard that's, you know, very specific requirements, a very large enclosure, just like the tegus. The minimum enclosure we like to see a tegu in is at least 8 feet. You gotta have a lot of room for these guys. Even when we see these guys walking around throughout the day, they're always moving, they're always in a different spot. We walk by, 1 minute they're in one spot of the enclosure, another minute they're in another spot of the enclosure.
Sometimes, once we actually took this guy out for a walk around the park,
yeah.
we actually put him in a leash.
Yep, we had a little harness in that for him.
We walked him around the park.
It didn't work very well because tegus go where they want to go.
And a lot of people stopped to pet him.
Yeah, I think that's why she wanted to do it. Now the tegus, I mean, they are usually very docile. There's a bunch of different kinds of tegus. These are the Argentines. We got a black and white, we got a red tegu. Very docile animals. I mean, Emily's got some scratches on her from Diablo squirming around. But I mean, these are, a lot of people refer to them as the puppy dogs of the reptile world because they just sit and do nothing. The downside is they eat a lot of food and they grow really fast. A young tegu can grow an inch a week until they're around 3 or 4 feet long. The reds can get up to around 5 feet. The black and whites aren't far behind. Very large appetites, a variety of rats and different ground meats, fruits, vegetables, things like that. They love eggs as well. Now that's one thing with the tegus, they're invasive in Florida. So for those who don't know what that means, they live there and they're not supposed to. And one huge problem down there is they love to eat eggs. They will dig up and eat an entire nest of endangered turtle eggs, bird eggs, snake eggs, even alligator eggs. And they'll eat that entire nest of eggs in one meal. So very detrimental to the environment. Just another reminder to never let your pets go into the wild. I'd love to say they're great pets, but they're not. They're not. I mean, I love tegus, I love the monitors, but they're not for everyone. They're a very advanced animal. Not something you should be getting a kid for a pet at all. Don't do it.
No.
Don't do it. No. Now, one other really cool thing with the Argus monitors here is they do this cool thing called tripoding, and it's really creepy. Do you remember when you used to do that at the other place? Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll stand on just their back legs, and they'll lift their body up and just watch you walk around. These guys here are from tall grasslands in Australia, so they will stand up and look over the tall grasses to see if there's predators, to see if there's prey, or just to look around and creep people out. So yeah, they're a really cool animal.
Once my dad was doing some work and he would just be standing there
Yeah.
just eyeing him.
It's really
Like,
creepy when you're walking around and there's a
Scary.
giant lizard just like standing up watching you walk around. So it's crazy. So have you ever had a tegu?
No.
No.
No, I just had the Savannah monitor.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I love them. And actually, I should mention too, tegus are not in any way related to monitor lizards. So everyone comes in, they see that like, oh, it's a Komodo dragon or something like that. It's not. Komodo dragons are actually a monitor lizard, just a bigger monitor. And tegus are not in any way related to monitors. They're in the Taid family, so a completely separate family. Even though they kind of look the same, they're not the same at all. And Raina, what are the big chubby cheeks for?
So these big chubby chicks, a lot of people think that they're for storing fat or nutrients,
Yeah.
but they're actually used for looking bigger and scarier or looking bigger and better for the ladies.
Exactly, helps them find a girlfriend. There you go. So there's some bigger lizards that maybe not. Oh, you want me to move away a little bit? No.
No trust. Yeah,
Okay.
so these are all the lizards we have to show to you guys today. So make sure that if you're ever considering getting your own lizard, to do lots and lots of research. There's specific care requirements, their cage requirements, cost, longevity of life. These guys still live a very long time. But I think that's all for today. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and check out Wild Education on Facebook and Instagram. And if you guys want to meet these lizards, book a tour with them.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye guys!
Bye.